What's going on YouTube? It's R32 Epiphany. In this video I have for you a Prismatic Titan build that I think is pretty good in GMs and all that. So for this build it's nothing crazy. It is a fan favorite of Consecration, but this is my take on the Prismatic Titan Consecration build. So let's jump straight into it. So first we're going to go over the subclass with the abilities, aspects, and fragments that you'll need for this build. Starting out with the abilities, our first ability is going to be Thruster, which is going to be our class ability, which is while grounded, quickly evade any lateral direction. That is pretty much going to be our class ability. For our melee, we'll be using Frenzied Blade. For our grenade, we'll be using Shackle Grenade. And then for our super now, we'll be using Twilight Arsenal. And we'll have our Transcendence and all that good stuff. And moving on, for our aspects, we'll be using Dragon Slash, which is activate your barricade ability to create a ripple in reality that travels forward along the ground, suspending and damaging the targets it hits. And for our second aspect, we'll be using Consecration, which is while sliding, activate your charged melee ability to launch a wave of solar energy forward, damaging and scorching targets in front of you as you leap into the air. While airborne, activate your charged melee again to slam to the ground and create a second larger wave of damaging solar energy. If the wave hits a scorched target, they ignite. Moving on to our fragments, we'll have 6 fragments in total, with the first fragment being Facet of Sacrifice, which is while you have an arc, solar, or void buff ability, final blows grant bonus darkness transcendence energy. For our second fragment, we'll be using Facet of Balance, which is rapidly defeating targets with light damage, grants melee energy, rapidly defeating targets with darkness damage, grants grenade energy. For our third fragment, we'll be using Facet of Courage. Your arc, solar, and void abilities deal increased damage to targets afflicted with darkness debuffs. For our fourth fragment, we will be using Facet of Dawn, which is powered melee hits against targets, makes you radiant, powered melee final blows make you and nearby allies radiant. For our fifth fragment, we'll be using Facet of Protection. While surrounded by commandments, you are more resistant to incoming damage. While Transcendent, the effect is increased. And for our sixth and final fragment, it will be Facet of Grace. Defeating targets with kinetic weapons grants you bonus Transcendence energy. Defeating targets with your super grants you and nearby allies bonus Transcendence energy. So next up, we're going to get into the weapon side of things. So in this build, you can use whatever weapon you want. I highly suggest a kinetic exotic weapon. That's just my personal preference for this build, only because I like something like Outbreak for this season, and just because Outbreak is a very good weapon. It has anti-barrier right now with the seasonal artifact, but that doesn't matter as much. The nice part about Outbreak is the Siva particles also can give you Transcendence energy as well when dealing damage, so it is definitely a very top choice. I'd choose that. Obviously Kvostov is also a great choice to go with for an exotic choice as well, but moving on for those, any weapon can work. And now for the exotic class item, I am rocking Spirit of the Eternal Warrior and Spirit of Syntheseps, but the Spirit of Eternal Warrior does play a good part in this, don't get me wrong, but the Syntheseps is mainly what we're taking advantage of on this class item. So you can, if you don't have a Syntheseps roll on your Titan yet, you can use just normal Syntheseps for this build. It'll still work. And yeah, so now we're going to jump straight into the armor mods that you'll need for this build. So to start out in the armor mods, first we're going to start on our helmet. And for our helmet, we'll be running ×2 hands-on, which is gain bonus super energy on melee kills, and ×1 kinetic siphon, which is rapid kinetic weapon final blows, create an orb of power. For our gauntlets, we'll be running ×1 grenade kickstart, which is collecting an orb of power, causes you to gain 1 temporary armor charge, and ×2 momentum transfers, which is causing damage with a grenade, reduces your melee cooldown, which is what we want for this build, considering we're going to be using Consecration a lot. we want to get our melee back as fast as possible. So yeah, and with that, getting our transcendence back is going to help a lot, because then we can have infinite consecrations before it runs out, and that just means more damage, which means take out champs and take out champions and grandmasters and all kinds of good stuff. So this is a very top choice. And moving on to our chest piece, we'll be rocking ×2 charged up, which increases the maximum number of stacks of armor charge you can carry by 1. And then I also run a resistance mod as well. And next up on our boots, we'll be rocking ×1 recuperation, which replenishes health each time you pick up an overpower. We'll also be rocking ×1 invigoration, which reduces melee cooldown each time you pick up an overpower. And lastly, we'll be rocking ×1 stacks on stacks, which picking up an orb of power grants you 1 additional stack of armor charge. And for our exotic class item or just class item, we'll be rocking ×1 Reaper, which is shortly after using your class ability, your next weapon final blow spawns an overpower. And we also rocking ×1 Powerful Attraction, which automatically collects nearby orbs of power when you activate your class ability. And lastly, we'll be rocking ×1 Outreach, which reduces melee cooldown when using your class ability. So this is pretty much all of the armor mods, all the weapons, and everything you need to know about this build. This is definitely one of my top builds that I use personally, and I think you guys might find it useful and higher end content. So with that being said, if you found this video to be helpful, useful, and informative in some way, be sure to smash that like button down below. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to smash that sub button down below as well. You can also find me over on Twitch, where I'll be streaming sometimes. So maybe you can catch a stream over there. And you can also find me over on Instagram, where I make montages, video updates, video sneak peeks, and everything like that. So yeah, with that being said, this is Arthur Tiffany, and I'll catch you next one, Guardians.